So 31-year-old Christian Cook. 31-year-old Christian Cook was found dead in Fountain, Colorado. Another capital punishment, a capital execution. The state can't handle you got James Holmes, you got that Deering guy, right? You can shoot up abortion clinics, and you could shoot up movie theaters, and you could shoot up pretty much everything, right? Shoot up movie theaters, you could shoot up those grocery stores, King Supers. You can be a serial killer and just claim mental health, and then you'll get a nice cozy mental health bid. So being a terrible criminal, has some setbacks. But being a good American citizen and having no police protection, well, that's the worst. Being a good American citizen and having absolutely no police protection, well, that gets you killed. That gets you killed. I heard this one story about this one guy goes up to another guy and says, "What gang affiliation are you?" And the guy said, "None. None. I'm an American citizen. So just the police got my back." And then the other guy, bang, bang. "Oh, you just have the police on your side? Well, then you don't have anybody. Do you know them personally? Yeah, well, then you don't have anybody. You have to know them personally. They won't defend anybody they don't know. They won't stand up for a man that they don't know." Christian Cook, right? So, Christian Cook, he never shot up a theater. Christian Cook, this is another Christian that's getting killed. Wasn't that one Christian Glass? The cops killed that guy. So, sometimes it's the citizens who's going around shooting people, and sometimes it's the cops, and sometimes the gangs are the cops, and sometimes the cops are the gangs. But do the cops ever catch anybody who criminalizes me in my entire life for 41 years? No. Nobody has ever committed a crime against me, and I called the police, and the police went and got the guy. That's never happened. Since being in Costilla County, I have goddamn reported so many fucking crimes, and everybody's too fucking smart around here. But I ain't lying. You all just don't give a shit about people doing crimes. Because birds of a feather flock together. R.I.P. to Christian Cook. I'm going to read this little article here. Pull this little article up. So this happens in El Paso County. This is Colorado Springs. Just a couple hours north of Pueblo. A couple hours south of Denver. It's the middle city. You got Pueblo, Colorado Springs. You got Trinidad, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, Boulder. That's I-25. El Paso County, Colorado. Man's body found near the railroad tracks is now being investigated as a homicide. Huh? Are you sure? A 31-year-old? A 31-year-old who's dead and it was a homicide. Why? Overdose? They're not saying the gunshot wound. So that's interesting. The Fountain Police Department Investigations Division says it appears to be an isolated incident as detectives are working through all the evidence to put the pieces of this crime together. They've told us nothing. They just said it was ruled a homicide, so, okay, we'll presume it's a homicide. The authorities are calling it a homicide. The authorities are saying it's the worst thing in the world, so we should probably believe those lying assholes. They would rather lie to us, right? So the fact that they're telling us bad news. We could trust the El Paso County Coroner's report. But why? Is there a gunshot wound? Was it fentanyl? Was it an overdose, drug dealing death kind of thing? Was it a stab wound? He's 31 years old. He should have died at 31. So clearly there is foul play. It's being ruled a homicide, but we're not being told any details. And then on top of the no details, they say, hey, if you have any details, why don't you tell us? So you have a bunch of cops that don't give a shit, and then you got the corporations, the media that don't give a shit. Here, just do this, call this tip line. You're not trying to find the murderer whatsoever, are you? And that's another thing. I swear to God, I looked at that Colorado law book, Title 18, it said something about thou shalt not murder. family is grieving. Okay, so that means Christian Cook. He was a son, a brother, nephew, a father, and a friend. He had kids. So, was this another gang shooting, another senseless gang shooting? Dude had $50 in his pocket, was walking down the road by himself in a police state America where they don't do any detective work and they don't ask any serious questions and they're always on the side of the criminals. Always on the side of the criminals. Who killed Christian Cook? You think anybody will ever how many goddamn murders happens there in Fountain? How many murders happens there at the Fountain Police Department, Fountain Fire Department? Fountain's like a small suburb of Colorado Springs, but there's a lot of foul play. A lot of dead bodies they find in Fountain. They robbed the world of such a talented kid, said Christian's father, James Cook. He's my right-hand man. He helped me work on my business. Yeah, he looks like salt of the earth guy. He doesn't look like he's got any tattoos. He doesn't look like he's ever shook his fist wrong at anybody. Looks like a nice guy. Give the shirt, give the last shirt off his back for anybody. He was a kid that could walk up and fix a problem in 10 minutes. That a group of old pros in their trade, so that means he was a goddamn progeny. He was a genius when it came to fixing cars. He was a genius. Now they're raising money for his funeral. The Cook's full family statement is as such. This is written by Michelle Cook. When I asked my husband what he wanted to share, he had so many things he wanted the world to know about Christian. The list was endless and will always be endless as we will find ways to honor his memory and be reminded of him every day. Christian was human, just like you and me. He was charismatic, passionate, intelligent. Well, there's a bunch of reasons. That's why I was getting fucked with in Costilla County. I mean, you're passionate and intelligent. They don't like your shine. They don't like your light. They got to dull your shine. They got to snuff out your little light of mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. They robbed the world of such a talented kid. Christian was our son, our man, a person, human. He was our son, a father, brother, a dear friend. Christian had some hardships, struggles. We tried to be there when we could, but nothing could ever prepare us to say goodbye to our child, not like this. And we're devastated. We would be devastated for the rest of his lives. He's got hardships and struggles. Everybody's got hardship and struggles. How much hardship and struggles comes from our own or from the criminals, Shit, we would be devastated for the rest of our lives. His siblings would be devastated. Yeah, he played by the rules. He worked hard. And what did he get for it? He played by the rules and he worked hard. What did he get for it? Got shot or killed, stabbed, overdosed. Who knows? We're not even going to try to even look at the situation. We're not even going to try to figure it out. The media isn't going to report the whole story. And the cops aren't going to go after the guy. And the cops aren't going to catch the guy. Come on. They're not. And you didn't give a damn. And in fact, you so much want to believe that Christian Cook did something wrong. Well, he was hanging out with bad friends or something, Clearly there was, Christian Cook was in, doing something, yeah, I've seen people get messed with walking to work, driving to work. Oh, he was just, trying to make $8 an hour for some piece of shit to pay for his piece of shit. He had to go slave for his piece of shit boss so he could pay for his piece of shit landlord. Pay for his piece of shit cable bill, pay his piece of shit taxes to the piece of shit government. Our hearts are broken by how many people have stated that they drove past and saw a body for hours. For hours, people drove by and they saw a body. Wow, good job, Fountain Police, Fountain people, Fountain Fire Department. You guys are crap. Are the Fountain Police and the Fountain Fire Department such crappy fucking people that the people of Fountain, they just aren't going to talk to the police and the fire department because they're pieces of shit? Yeah, why would you talk to the fire department? So they can fuck you over? So they can burn your house down? Why would you talk to the police? You call 911 5 times, they'll arrest you for some stupid shit. well, we don't see the person around here. The felon isn't around here doing the felons like you said. Well, what about this? You got a broken tail light. Okay, cool, cop. I'm so glad I called you, cop. I'm so glad. I'm so glad the system is so broken and the system never goes after the bad guys. I'm so glad the system just picks on random fucking people that just happen to be walking by. See, Daddy? See, Daddy? We arrested somebody. Well, you got one of the murderer or the rapist, huh? You got one of the thieves, didn't you? Is that no, Daddy? He was jaywalking, Daddy. Daddy, he didn't wear a seatbelt, Daddy. You got all these murderers and these violent, B&Es and these poachers and these right-wing sovereign Nazis. And you're going to go after somebody for jaywalking? You're just going after anybody and everybody just to get a quota, right? Just to feel big about yourself, right? No one called till the railroad employee made the report. We would like to thank that railroad employee from the bottom of our hearts for actually making the call. A railroad employee probably had to, right? Or liability reasons. Why isn't that the same for citizens? And why isn't that the same for the cops? Oh, nothing to see over there. Michelle Cook, Christian's mother. If you have any information, call the Fountain Police. They won't do anything about it, but they want to know things, so they would like to know what's going on. Yeah. Call the police and have a tip, and I wonder... Costilla County, I called the police over and over again on major felony crimes. And Keith Schultz says he was best friends with one of the people that tried to assassinate me. So maybe that's the reason, huh? The guy that tried to assassinate me, Keith Schultz, had said that he was like a nice, big, warm teddy bear. Oh, he was just a big, warm teddy bear, you know? Oh, okay. Well, that teddy bear tried to murder me. He drove by. Is attempted murder. I mean, talk about felony menacing. You guys are freaking out over a couple warning shots, and yet the friend of Keith Schultz drove by my fucking house shooting at me. You know what I'm not doing? Killing your puppies. You know what I'm not doing? Spotlighting you in the middle of the night. You know what I'm not doing? Yeah, I fired a couple warning shots from behind my house at a person who acted like he was going to run over my damn dogs. A piece of crap that was... I'm not going around doing drive-by shootings. But that's you people. That's you people. Please see him as we did and always will, as a human who didn't deserve to be executed and left on the side of the highway abandoned and alone. They're devastated. They've been struggling to make sense out of it since they first found out on Easter. That's got to be a bad Easter Sunday. And then Easter, Good Friday is when Jesus was killed, and then Easter is when he was resurrected. And Abraham Lincoln was killed on Good Friday. And then the resurrection, the Jesus story is all bullshit, but Christian Cook, he was a man. He was a father, a good man, a good hardworking man, a person that wouldn't have robbed you, wouldn't have messed with you in any way, shape, or form if you were his neighbor. Who probably would have helped you. Who probably, if I would have asked him, hey, Christian Cook, can you just sit here and be a witness? We got to stop all this crime in the neighborhood. We need a brigade. We need a justice brigade, a citizen justice brigade. By the citizens organizing themselves when the cops get here, we all saw the same thing. So we all have our reports, and we're policing ourselves. If crimes are happening, there's several things you could do. Organize the neighborhood, get other like-minded people, get other people who's against crimes. I'm just having the damnedest time convincing you assholes of anything, I guess, if you're wicked people. Now, the point of all this isn't to chastise Colorado Springs, but so we can learn some evidence. So if you're the Fountain Police Department, you're going to need to gather some evidence. And what's the evidence? You need to gather the evidence that's going to be admissible in court. So you need to gather the evidence that is consistent with Colorado's rules of evidence. In Colorado, the courts, this is in Colorado Rules of Evidence, Colorado's courts have a liberal admission of evidence. This is 2003 Martinez decision. I want to say Colorado Supreme Court, 2003 Martinez. So a liberal admission of evidence. Relevant and material is the standard. Relevant and material. So if you have relevant and material evidence, then you should come forward. Victims' rights says even if you have no information, that's something. Hey, do you have information? No. So the Fountain Police Department, what they need to do, where they found 31-year-old Christian Cook, they need to check all the surveillance people. They need to get all the affidavits. They need to do a canvass of the neighborhood. And they need to talk to everybody in the neighborhood and try to piece together what happened that night. You can do, when it comes to time, you can do a nice, just a 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. But ultimately, he was a 31-year-old man. He lived in a house. He had a job. He only went to so many different places. He has one city. So he's only doing so many things. So you can whittle it down. Okay, here's his general, plan or thing in a month. And then get closer and closer to the time, minute by minute when you get to the time of murder. So the Fountain Police Department, let's see. The defendant is entitled to present evidence to create doubt, and the Colorado Rules of Evidence strongly favors the admission of evidence. So what's relevant and material? Let's just think about that standard for a second. What kind of evidence would be relevant and material to find out who killed Christian Cook? So I think talking to everybody that's around, talking to all the houses that are around, if there's a window that could have seen his body being dumped, talk to that people, talk to those houses, and then just talk to the neighborhood in general. Some people, hate cops, but other people really like cops. And so you might, find some people. And then also, if you have surveillance, if you got videotape, you can't argue with videotape. Videotape. That's evidence. You can't have a lie detector test. You can't do hypnosis, but you can get videotape. You could get eyewitness testimonies. You could get photographs. You could get fingerprints. Let's get the list up here. The Kelley Blue Book, which isn't really relevant to this case, but the Kelley Blue Book is good evidence. You can't do a voice print analysis. No QEEG testing. That's the Tran v. Hilburn 1997 appeals decision. No collateral conjecture evidence. No collateral conjecture evidence. That's not admissible, not proper, not okay, according to the 1981 Botham decision. No hypnotic trances. No polygraph test, okay? But what can you admit into a Colorado court? Well, Facebook messages, text messages, promissory notes. They're admissible. 1992 Smith v. Weindrop appeals. Kelley Blue Book, coroner's report and death certificates, info on cell phone, but is not hearsay. So the 2009 Buckner decision says that info on cell phone, the information on a cell phone, is not hearsay, and that it's admissible and proper to admit into. So a promissory note, text messages, Facebook messages, cell phone information, Kelley Blue Book, a coroner's report. The defendant's own statement was held admissible in the Berger-Levy 1983 case. Gang affiliation, 1993, Mendoza. Appeals, 1994, Mendoza. What's your gang affiliation? It matters what your gang affiliation is. Is it more likely that the Crips are going to attack the Bloods and the Bloods are going to attack the Crips? Yes. They're a part of their own gang, and that means the other gangs are their enemies. So it matters. That is relevant and material. 1994 Moya, 1998 Webster, 1994 Fernandez. Are you a Nazi? Are you part of the right-wing sovereign movement? What gang are you a part of? According to the 2015 Clark, 94 Mendoza, 93 Mendoza, 98 Webster, 94 Moya, and the 94 Fernandez appeals decision, a person's gang affiliation is admissible in court. Some experiments are okay and proper and admissible. 1981 McCombs. What experiments are in the McCombs decision? What experiment are they talking about with the McCombs decision? But you could do some experiments. Video animation of a shaken baby syndrome. So they had a video animation of somebody shaking a baby and what happens with that baby. So video animation of a syndrome is allowed. That's 2001 Cawley. Dog tracking evidence of a witness's fear of retaliation is proper and admissible. Evidence of threats against witness is properly admitted. Eyewitness testimonies. Basically, the entire Colorado court is all about the witnesses. I almost feel like people don't look at the evidence. They just want the witnesses because it's politics. It's all about the politics. So who says what? Who did what? Get the witnesses in there, and then they have to testify to this and that and whatever. But you don't need witnesses. If you got videotape, you don't need any witnesses to come in. All you need is somebody to look at the videotape. Is that the witness, the one who looked at the videotape? Videotape is good evidence according to the 2017 Valdez decision. It's self-validating and self-authenticating. Why? Because videotape is a perfect identical representation of the truth. Fingerprints, thermostat, there's actual objects. In the Simon v. Coppola appeals decision, 1993, a thermostat was brought in. 3 weapons in a holster was brought in. In the Ridenour 1994 case, there's no qualitative difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. So did you see the thing directly? Okay. Do you have circumstantial evidence? Do you know that Troy Zinn sells water illegally? Troy Zinn sells water illegally. And Troy Zinn owes over $2,000 worth of permits for the planning and zoning. Is it possible that Troy Zinn, who goes around selling water illegally, who says Susie Lucero, fuck you and fuck your laws, he ain't gonna pay for planning and zoning. Fuck your laws, Susie Lucero. He owes $2,000 to planning and zoning. That's circumstantial evidence. That's circumstantial evidence that he may have killed Tecumseh. Photographs are okay. 2015 McClellan, People in the Interest of R.G., 1980 White decision. A lot of times when they talk about photographs, they want to say, is it prejudicial to the client? Is it prejudicial to the defendant? And if it's a photograph of the crime scene, it's kind of incredible that it's like, hey, you're being prejudicial to the defendant because it's like you're putting the carnage and the bloodshed on the defendant before he's even been. And then last but not least, video fluoroscopy on DNA evidence. 2001 Shrek decision. 2001 Shrek decision says that DNA evidence from multiplex DNA testing systems is A-OK. It is proper. It is admissible evidence. And then the chiropractic industry. The chiropractic industry, they don't have any stock in the QEEG testing, but this video fluoroscopy, it's an X-ray motion picture of a patient's bones and soft tissues in motion. Video fluoroscopy, so an X-ray in motion of the patient's bones and soft tissues. It's in motion, so it's like an X-ray in motion. And apparently video fluoroscopy, that's good evidence too. So when you're like, okay, Christian Cook, what happened to Christian Cook? Well, is there a thermostat around? Is there a weapon or a holster? Material objects, anything that's relevant in material, fingerprints, DNA, videotape. Is there anything like that? Circumstantial evidence, photographs. Is there gang affiliations? Is there video fluoroscopy, eyewitness testimonies? And then the other things, right? The promissory notes. I don't know how those things could fit into it, but is there a promissory note? Was he shot because of some bank fucking statement? No, he had some bank deal and the banker didn't want to do the thing or something. Coroner's report, Kelly Blue Book. The coroner's report is good evidence. So when the coroner comes back and says that it was homicide, well, that's as good as gold right there. That's as good as court approved. And the defendant's own statement is held admissible. What all did he say? What all did Christian Cook say? Berger Levy, 1983. So I'll just end it off with this case here. But you got Marilyn Berger Levy. And this is a woman, and she had a male accomplice, and she was making fun of the male accomplice. They were doing credit card fraud. And so they had printed off a bunch of credit card slips, and she was making fun of the male accomplice, and saying that he wrote too big and too sloppy. That was quoted, too big and too sloppy. So therefore, Marilyn Berger was telling her male accomplice to don't forge the credit card slips don't forge the credit card slips because he doesn't do a good enough job. Only Marilyn Berger Levy can do it. So that was the statement. He said, too big and too sloppy. She said that I wrote too big and too sloppy, and that's why I shouldn't forge the credit card slips. Just let her do it. And they were like, wait a second, that's like Fifth Amendment. You're making her testify against herself. That's hearsay, you know. But she was the defendant. It's consistent with the case. And if you can have a statement and pieces of information to go towards their purported guilt, then you should be able to offer evidence in there for their purported innocence as well. Marilyn Berger Levy, guilty of 5 of 9 credit card charges, not hearsay, because Marilyn said that in her own individual capacity. So they're saying it was relevant. They said that she said it in her own individual capacity, and he had heard it. And there's some exceptions to hearsay. There's excited utterances and some other exceptions. But did Christian Cook ever say anything about anything? Write down every single word Christian Cook ever said about the damn neighborhood, about any person that he ever had a problem with. Just write Christian Cook over here and over there. I'm glad you're remembering him. I'm glad he had loved ones. But Christian Cook still had another 45 years left. He was choked out of over half of his life. He had 45 years left. He was a father. He could have been a father of another 1 or 2 or 3 before it was all over. But no, he had $50. Some fucking meth head piece of shit needed $50 to get his fucking fix. Saw Christian Cook in a vulnerable place, in a vulnerable situation, and then decided to get themselves $50. So, R.I.P. to Christian Cook, and hopefully the Fountain Police and the Fountain people and the Fountain Fire Department get their fucking shit together. How many people's in Fountain? I mean, it can't be that hard to organize a small town or a small community unless they're all just piles of shit. And if they're all piles of shit, well then shit, I just figured out the problem. Your whole community is a bunch of piles of shit. So, yeah, it seems like crimes are going to keep on happening until you find somebody that says, hey, no, we got to stop the crimes and we got to organize the community. We got to have law and order, until one of the people from the ghetto stand up and just say, hey, we need to get law and order. A person from the ghetto that they all just happen to respect for some reason. Don't expect anything in Fountain to get better or for anything in Fountain to change.